Morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Gillian Lawless. I work in the biopharma and food team of IDA. I just worked out this is my 19th annual conference and the first time I've ever looked at it from this angle and seen you all. So that's pretty cool, and it's great to see you all. You all look great. Thank you. So the next section is an interview with the CEO of MeiraGTx. The company develops gene therapies which essentially seek to cure or treat previously uncurable diseases, and there's a specific initial focus of the company is on eye diseases. So Michael Lohan, Head of Life Sciences, Talent, Transformation and Innovation, is going to interview the CEO, Dr. Alexandria Forbes. She's fantastic. Had the opportunity to see her speak at the company's official opening in Shannon last year. So I know it'll be very interesting for you all to hear what she has to say about the future of medicine. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gillian, and good morning, colleagues, and to distinguished guests, and wish you all a very happy and healthy new year, which is most important for all of us. So, as Gillian mentioned, next up I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Alexandria Forbes. She's President CEO of MeiraGTx, and who are a pioneering company focused on gene therapy in terms of curative medicine and curative platforms for the next generation of serious and chronic diseases. So, welcome, Zandy, and thank you very much for joining us at today's IDEA's annual conference.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. So, Zandy, maybe we'll start off with just saying there's an absolute renewed excitement and indeed expectation on this next wave of biopharma innovation and medical device innovation with the progression of a range of advanced therapeutics, and amongst which cell and gene therapy are certainly at the forefront in this evolution. Can you share with us what all this means and why there has been so much excitement building in the industry?
Yes, you're right. There is a lot of excitement about a completely new modality to add to the technologies that we have available to fight, diseases which are currently not able to be treated, as well as some long-term chronic diseases that may not be genetic, that also could use genetic medicines to allow access to more people and to have much better efficacy. And over the last 20 years, there have been a range of developments which have started to allow us to use first, second generation genetic medicines to treat a number of different types of diseases. In cell therapy, we've seen really great efficacy in immune oncology, and certainly in vivo gene therapy, we're starting to see drugs approved in the eye or muscle disease, genetically inherited diseases where we have gene replacement. And at Meira, we address similar diseases to those. Our lead program is an inherited retinal disease, and we manufacture material for that in our facility in Ireland. We also target non-genetic diseases with genetic medicine. So we have a product that allows salivary glands to start functioning again after they've been damaged in the radiation treatment that's used to cure head and neck cancer. And we also have a Parkinson's disease program where we use neurotransmitter enzymes, the enzymes that change neurotransmitters from activating to repressing, to recircuit certain areas of the brain and allow Parkinson's patients to move more normally. So genetic medicine is now not only being used for genetic diseases, gene replacement, but being used in a broad range of diseases, and that will only increase as the technology develops further.
Well, thank you, Zandy, for that insight. I think what we're starting to see and what you've explained there is the impact of science and innovation and how that's actually developing these platforms to help us, I suppose, to tackle and focus on these chronic diseases. And of course, for most people, we've seen this very live in the last 2 to 3 years through the development of the RNA vaccine for COVID-19, which RNA actually sits in the advanced therapeutics family of platforms. So I suppose what we've seen is with that new platform, how that has evolved so quickly. And I suppose my question is to you is, has this changed the playing field for the sector? And how do you feel the industry will look in the next 10 to 15 years?
I think one of the things that really led to the very rapid development of vaccines was collaboration across multiple different groups in industry as well as academia. And as we get critical mass in other forms of genetic medicine, I think you will see that with more and more information, more and more data coming out in each of these different areas, you will see collaboration, which will expedite the development of completely new technologies. And even at Meira, we have a great example of that, which is we have developed an entirely new technology which transforms the breadth that gene therapy can be applied to. And that is that at Meira, we have invented a way of controlling very precisely genetic medicines using pills. Now, we're a small company, but through collaboration with large biotech and large pharmaceutical companies, we hope to be able to expedite the access to this really field-changing technology into areas like cell therapy with large pharma companies whose business is cell therapy, or gene editing, or antibody therapies, all of which we can apply our technology to. But in those collaborations between large and smaller companies, we can really speed the time that it takes to get these new technologies actually into the clinic and used by people in a wide variety of different indications.
And certainly, I think, Zandy, what you've explained there is the power of collaboration, and for a company like yourselves, an emerging company, how that's so important as you engage, with the large players and with the patient population. And I suppose what I'm interested in the question is, with the increased ability and capability offered by gene therapies, how does a company like MeiraGTx prioritize target disease areas?
So our initial indications that we started, clinical indications that we started the company around, actually were all chosen because the technology available at the time, we thought really could have a benefit in those specific indications. And we saw various issues that we wanted to avoid, such as broad delivery of high doses of viral vectors and the potential alerting of the immune system. So in our initial indications, which are now in phase 2 and phase 3 in clinical studies, we chose the eye as an area of delivery. And so we have a phase 3 program with our partner Janssen in an inherited eye disease and a pipeline of inherited eye disease programs. In addition, our salivary gland gene therapy, which I just mentioned, one of the reasons for taking that program and taking it through the clinic is there was human proof of concept that it worked. It's a very low dose when we manufacture a low cost of goods, and it allows us through gene therapy to address a very big market. So these different therapies we initially chose, including Parkinson's, which is again a locally delivered, very small dose into the CNS, a somewhat immune protected area, were all chosen because they allowed us to avoid some of the issues, such as dosing and safety, that you're seeing with very large doses delivered systemically. And we were agnostic to whether these were genetic diseases or chronic diseases or degenerative diseases. It was really, do we have a technology which can be innovatively used in those contexts that we think can have a benefit where nothing else is able to have a benefit? And that drove our decision making in our initial programs. As we move through to our gene regulation platform, there it's so broadly applicable, and it actually broadens how you can use genetic medicine. We are focusing on different areas, as I mentioned. Cell therapy. We're not a cell therapy company, but there are many who have expertise in cell therapy. We can provide the technology to engineer cells and control cells for immune oncology or other indications, which could have much better efficacy and could address some of the problems in cell therapy, like solid tumors, right? Because we can now control how those cells function, when and where. So we look at indications as what that current technology can address most effectively, how to address safety and make sure that the studies work and are efficacious, and therefore what indication, but also as we look to the future, how we can partner with experts in certain areas to speed progress towards the clinic. There are large indications that we are undertaking ourselves in the area of diabetes and combinations of peptides and hormones. And internally at Meira, this is a huge area that medicine has found difficult to address because of the short-lived nature of hormones and peptides. And we have found a way of delivering the genes for these short-lived molecules into the body, and we can switch them on. The natural forms of these hormones and peptides, they're sitting there waiting to be switched on. We can switch them on with a pill to exactly the right dose at exactly the right time. So those we're moving forward ourselves, and we built many of those vectors already. So depending on our expertise, the expertise in the field, the unmet need, we choose different indications to focus on in different contexts and for collaborations or independently.
Well, Sandy, it's fantastic, as you explained there, how science is enabling actually our bodies to become the natural defense to some of these diseases as well. And obviously you're doing that through collaboration, through the experience and the knowledge and skills within MeiraGTx as well. So in Ireland, I suppose, like, we are fully committed to talent generation and skills generation that underpins our enterprise base and enables our innovation through our innovation-driven sectors. So I suppose my question is, to support the opportunity in new advanced therapeutics, such as cell and gene therapies, what in your views are the skills of the future? And also, how do we ensure inclusion and diversity within the future workforce?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting question, and there are many layers to answer it. First of all, Meira is a company that is unusually diverse. It shouldn't be. Other companies should be as we are. We have about 60% women, and that isn't because of any policy. It's literally happened that way because the people we employ tend to be out of universities with Ph.Ds, and we employ the best people for our jobs. So we have people from 37 different nations that work for us, and a very diverse young workforce. With respect to Ireland, we built our manufacturing facility, our second big facility in Shannon. And certainly one of the reasons for that was the availability of a highly trained workforce. And what we found with our Irish workforce is that they're not only highly trained specifically in GMP manufacturing, which certainly is what the Irish workforce is famous for and very good at globally. But when I go and give talks at our Shannon facility, our workforce is really engaged, scientifically knowledgeable in general. And I think the Ireland has done an incredibly good job of providing a broad scientific education that allows people to go into things like manufacturing of viral vectors as a career. And of all the areas we looked at globally, one of the reasons we chose Shannon was because of the availability of that workforce and the close interaction with the universities and government in Ireland, so that it's really seen as a great career for young people to go into. And there's enthusiasm and energy, as well as highly trained and very competent people. It's a lot more difficult to find that large community of people anywhere else in our experience in the world. And we've been really, really happy. And it's great to be able to be a part of that community in Ireland, frankly.
Well, certainly, Zandy, we're very pleased to have you as part of that community in Ireland as well. I think the excitement, the vigour, the scientific rigour that your company is bringing, I suppose, a renewed vigour within the life sciences sector and the broader sectors in Ireland as well. So, Zandy, I'm moving on to my last question for you, and I suppose it's a fairly large question, but what do you believe the future of medicine means for patients and society?
Well, I think as we look to the future in general in medicine is starting to become a little bit more bespoke for patients. In the past, with small molecule, pills and small molecule medicines, giant studies were done and drugs work in most patients, and that's when they're approved. With genetic medicines and even biologics and other medicines, small molecule medicines, as we move into the future, we're developing more and more specific drugs that can be addressing individual or small groups of patients' needs. That's not only rare inherited diseases, that's specific genetic types of cancer, for example. That's cell therapy, which are made for one patient at a time. And as we get better at analyzing large amounts of data and identifying smaller and smaller groups of patients, we're also able to develop medicines that more specifically, more efficaciously hit individual types of patients' needs. So I see that as a trend. While there are still really big needs, Alzheimer's, obesity, diabetes out there that can be treated a little bit more globally, there is this move both in diagnosis and analysis and treatment to be a little bit more bespoke as we treat patients.
Yeah, I think that's certainly interesting that as we see that move to the bespoke or the personalised treatment, what that's going to mean for patient care in the future is going to be critical, and we're starting to see the early stages of that. And as we know, there are a large number of disease states which unfortunately today there aren't treatments for. So there is a large amount of, I suppose, where innovation and research actually can make progress in this over the next decades, and certainly I think everyone personally wants to see that happen as well. So Zandy, I suppose I just again want to thank you for sharing your insights with us here at today's annual conference on what the evolution of healthcare means. To thank you for your leadership in MeiraGTx and what you're doing in terms of bringing these technologies and these new platforms, which is going to help all of us from a societal perspective. And also, I suppose, to recognise and thank you for choosing Ireland and for partnering with IDA in terms of choosing Limerick as your location for your global manufacturing base. And we look forward to a long and successful partnership. Thank you, Zandy.
Thank you so much.
So with that, colleagues, I just wanted to say thank you to Gillian and thank you to Zandy. Zandy couldn't be with us today. She's actually at the healthcare conference in San Francisco, the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference this week, where the good and the great from the healthcare world come together. So I just want to thank her for her time. And with that, I'll hand back to Mary. Thank you.